Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 383, and today we're going to be doing battle with Teemo Tristana. And so, before we dive into the video, I do want to say I accidentally deleted all of my settings in the recording software. I think I got everything back to normal and where it was in the days past, but I had most assuredly missed something. So please let me know in the comment space if the voice sounds off, or the sound is weird levels, or the video just doesn't look quite right, and I'll try to get that sorted out over the course of the next few videos. And so, Teemo Tristana, this is not a new deck by any means. As soon as Tristana was buffed, maybe 3 or 4 patches ago, the Atrocity version, like we're seeing today, first made its way onto the scene, and then with the updates to Bandle Gunners, with the release of Glory and Novori, the newer versions of Tristana hit. And so if you've been playing Standard over the past couple of months, you most assuredly ran into Teemo Tristana either paired up with Noxus for cards like Might, into Bilgewater for cards like Prize Fight, or into Demacia for cards like Champion Strength. But the OG version, the original one of these, was looking to play Atrocity, and Atrocity didn't get to make its mark on Standard after Glory from Novori came out because it got banished to the Lands of Eternal. But with the 4.5 patch, Atrocity was nerfed, or I guess reverted, back to its original self. It's now a 7 mana fast spell, and we get to come back and use this Tristana ability. And so the kind of big and core idea with this style of deck is you've got this 10, 12, 14 power Tristana, you make an attack, your opponent blocks it with their 1/1 unit. You don't really get to do any damage. You maybe get to deal a couple of points of impact. And so this deck has always strived to find a way to take advantage of these really high attack Tristanas, with Noxus playing Might, giving her Overwhelm, with the Prize Fight decks letting her impact a bunch of units down the row, so she may not be dealing direct combat damage, but if she has Impact 4, you Prize Fight twice and get a regular strike in, she's going to hit for 12 damage, or looking towards the Demacia versions, giving her Scout, letting your team attack twice is often enough to close out the game that way. But again, we're going to be looking to answer that question with Atrocity, so we have the way to just directly send the damage right at our opponent's face. But outside of the big combos, the deck has a lot of the play patterns that you should be used to if you're playing a lot of Tristana over the course of the past couple of months. It has this really wide board presence, with both Bandle Commander and Grandfather Fade generating the Hungry Outcats. The Hungry Outcats doing a fantastic job of loading up the board as they just cost 1 mana. We have the Tenor of Terror to summon 2 units at once. We have the Bandle City Mayor to generate a unit in hand and make the rest of our units all cheaper. Just a very easy and fantastic way to completely flood out the board. And so if your opponent is going for, say, a go tall strategy, you're able to just attack around it. If your opponent's playing a very single target heavy removal spell deck, like say something like Karma Set, they don't have the means to just blow up all of your units because you play so many, and then the Hungry Outcats also having Spell Shield help limit those kind of ideas. And so nothing too new here, nothing really added to the deck for Shadow Isles and those kind of themes, but Shadow Isles does get to add in a couple of other pretty fantastic cards. And so the most common deck you're going to see in the format right now is going to be some kind of version of Discard Aggro. This is going to be a Draven-based deck with Jinx in it. They look to flood the board with a ton of units, boost them up with Vision, something that we should be familiar with. But the big thing with that being Draven, and we have the Hate Spike in here as the means of taking down both Draven and Jinx. That's why we're out here fielding the full 3 copies of Hate Spike to get this nice 3 damage removal spell. The next kind of answering deck to Discard Aggro, or things like Poppy Ziggs, is going to be Thresh Nasus, and having access to Vengeance is a fantastic way to take down a Nasus. If we're out here trying to flood the board, the opponent's counting on that Nasus to block and then control the board from that point forward. Being able to take him down with Vengeance is ultimately pretty powerful. Very great answer to any of the Go Tall style decks. To that same means, we have the Aloof Travelers, no longer in Standards, only out here in the Lands of Eternal, but a fantastic way to make our opponent discard what is probably their best card. And so we aim to play the Aloof Travelers on turn 5, turn 6, turn 7, try to make our opponent discard a Nasus, discard a Feel the Rush, discard a Karma, and without the opponent having the key element to their deck, we're able to continue to swarm in and get the kill, as they can't play their high-valued cards when it's in the discard pile. And so that's the deck. That's what we'll be doing battle with today. You know what we're going to do before the battle begins, though. We got to go and turn something premium. And so we got one option in here, one shot. Our boy Tenor of Terror ready to catch that premium treatment. The whole deck is premium now, as it is. Got loads of skins up here as well. You got to use the classic Teemo skin along with the Earnest Elf Tristana. Get you that maximum power that you need. That's tough. Like those aren't pay-to-win skins, though. I'm not certain how this is going to play out at the end of the day. You get the Foundation's Teemo and the Earnest Elf Tristana for free, and so I'm not quite sure how that's going to play out. But I noticed we just left off our record thing. Look at that. Look at how nice and large that record is. You could just leave it at this size for the remainder of the video, since we know we're probably gonna just have all wins. You might as well showcase those wins with as big of numbers as you can. All right, the battles are beginning. Up against Tokens is our first match. Let's dive on in. And so, interesting start. A lot of these cards are quite powerful against Tokens. You don't see Green Glade duos that often anymore, so Bandle Commando isn't quite as necessary as you would want, but Grumble Slug and Bandle City Mayor both having a bit of health can let them come down and get multiple blocks on the Tokens units. And so I'm going to go ahead and just discard the Bandle Commando here. I'm not super excited about the Hungry Owlcat plan, since they just die to all of the smaller units out of the opposing deck, but I'm happy enough to hang on to all these other cards. Now, if opponent wants to attack with Sparring Student, I'll happily trade. Just want to get this thing off of the board. We are the control deck in this match, and we're really looking to just prevent all of the damage that we can. So getting that Dum-Dum out of the way early, make it much more manageable before he's a big 7-7 or an 8-8 coming at us. All right, Grumble Slug ready to party. Of course, no block. Now, this is kind of one of the interesting things you'll note against Sparring Students is we shouldn't be able to pokey stick this thing, right? Opponent's going to open with a unit, and then we're not going to be able to hit the Sparring Student when it's only at 1. And so it's a card that you typically have to open the turn with if you want to come in and remove the Sparring Student from the board. We'll see if we have that come to fruition here on the next turn or so. Definitely not getting in front of him right now. And then with the Bandle City Mayor, I want to try and find some health. Just like playing Wandering Shepherd and having it trade with a Sand Soldier doesn't feel very good. So I'm going to pick up the Scholarly Climber here as a means to hopefully get a couple of points of health on the board. So with this, we got our free play in Teemo. Sounds great. Now, I want to clear out as much of this board as we can, and so I'm happy to trade away Teemo here. That's not that big of a deal. Let's put it in front of his 2-1 in case he has one of those recall kind of cards. I'd like to keep our Bandle City Mayor alive, so it'll block the 2-1 here. And then lastly, we'll just throw away the Grumble Slug in the face of the Sparring Student. Try and protect our health here. We got plenty of plays to be making over the course of the next few turns. I'm happy to just throw away my cards in the face of damage. Opponent's down to 2 cards now, and so without like an Azir or an Irelia here in the immediate future, they're really going to be hurting in terms of card quantity. Well, we have Cycle in the Pokey Stick, Bandle City Mayor generates a card, Grandfather Fae generates a card. We're doing just fine in terms of just having stuff to do. Now, I think I'm a little bit more interested in Tristana. She's going to get a good attack this turn. Opponent doesn't have the mana to really interact with her, and then she does have the stats to be blocking in these upcoming turns. Really surprised to see this block. I guess the Sand Soldier isn't doing too much here, but felt like he was a little more valuable than that throwaway. There's Azir. I think we want to go ahead and drop the Climber. I guess we don't have to. Where I'm kind of thinking here is I want to have a way to take down Azir. And, you know, one summon is going to make Tristana big enough, assuming we play a multi-faction. But if we do drop the Climber, he's going to get up to 6 attack and then be able to get in front of Azir. And so I think I'm happy to just go ahead and throw it down. If the Azir flips, which is pretty likely on the turn. If opponent has a Blade Dance or something, he's gonna start doing his thing, but interesting. This is just a pretty bad attack. I don't think I'm quite willing to throw away the Scholar. This just isn't a very high damage swing from the opponent. You have to imagine, like, you typically want your sparring student dealing maximum damage, and so you play your Blade Dances first. I would imagine that if he's leaving the sparring student open, then he probably just doesn't have any other removals in his hand. So this is interesting. We have the Puzzling Signposts. The only card that would really cause this problem right here is going to be a Dragon Ambush. And I think if we get a Signpost onto a Dragon Ambush, we just kind of outright win the game. And so I wanted to hold back on that just a little bit. Now that he's added the Blossoming Blade to the board, we have a little bit of things we can work with. But I think I'm willing to just take the damage here and then go for the Atrocity next turn. It's not a big attack, and he's got to put some blocks for it this turn. Like, he's most certainly losing something to Tristana. And then, otherwise, I mean, if he wants to allow our big boys through, it doesn't seem very positive for the opponent. Alright, that's tough. Let's just go ahead and hit.
Miles to go.
I'm a little bit worried. The card that worries me in this spot is the bounce spell that recalls something, but I think it's I think it's just too expensive here, right? It costs 5 now instead of 4. But reasonable enough signposts here. It's going to get the Blossoming Blade out of the way. He can still replay the tag out on the cheap. That's not, you know, the best thing in the world, but he's not going to have the Blade Dance on this upcoming turn. Now I think we just have enough blockers to make our way through this. We don't really have to Atrocity this turn, but I would kind of like to wait and see if he'll tap down below Deny mana before we throw the Atrocity down. He is playing Green Glade Duo. I haven't seen it as recently as I thought, so interesting. But again, let's see if they just spend some mana. It's a very suspicious attack with the Green Glade Duo because it looks just terrible in the face of the Bandle Commandos, but I think if we could say put the Tristana block down and he's like, cool, Twin Disciplines, gotcha, then we'll be able to still come at him with a we'll still be able to come at him with the Atrocity. Alright, well, if we add the Tenor of Terror, we still have the 7 mana. And so we'll find an angle, we'll find a time to get this thing in. I just don't want to have to throw it down when things are too dangerous here. That's kind of crappy. we can't just take all of this. We have to throw the Tenor of Terror in front of 1. But again, he's at this spot where he only has 1 card in hand, and so if he wants to play a combat trick, we'll just kill him.
Glorious sacrifice.
I don't think we've been too greedy with this one. Okay, Azir's Arise. Atrocity right to the nugget. Close to just winning the game anyways, but you gotta put Azir down here. Is this enough? Just enough anyways? You want to throw down the Atrocity just to let him know how good we got it? Nah, we'll wait. GG. Alright, good stuff. Victory unlocked. Oh, my settings are messed up, man. Everything's so different now. Alright, 1 and 0. It says it right on the screen. You know how good we're doing now. On to the next one. Hope it's not too bad. I like started some videos and did some talking and stopped and listened to it and started and stopped and started and stopped, and it sounded like my voice wasn't like too overpowering or anything, and so hopefully Hopefully you didn't turn the video off at this point. Hopefully you just adjusted your little sound knob or whatever. You pushed the button on your AirPods or something and made it a little bit more manageable. All right, up against Nora. I think we want to get rid of everything except the Teemo. I'm trying to think of what this is, like Nora with PNZ, but being Nora only. Is this a concurrent timelines deck? I'm trying to think, like, I don't know. I don't really like hanging on to group shot. It takes a lot of work for a group shot to be able to kill a Nora. And now we're kind of in this spot to where, you know, if we just draw Hate Spike, it's going to be good enough. We have a reasonable blocker in the Bandle Commando, and so we have a lot more, like, the group shot's kind of like the oh shit moment, right? It's like, oh shit, it's like turn 5, we have to spew a bunch of stuff to try and get the kill here, is to where picking up a Hate Spike or a Bandle Commando lets us get a little bit more active in the early game. But alright, still not entirely certain what we're up against. I don't feel like we need to be throwing away Teemo's here. Having him get hit with group shots, fine. But, again, it doesn't really strike me as being the aggro. I feel like we're going to be the aggro deck in this matchup, and so having Teemo hang out just a little bit on the defensive isn't that bad. Yeah, these cards all kind of suck. This is a pretty bad manifest. I'm leaning towards just the Mushroom Rink. These cards all just suck. We don't have any combos with the Cavalier. I mean, I guess we could pick the Protoporo just because it's free. Like, I don't really want to be spending mana on any of these units.
Where's my speech? You can fix anything with anything.
What a sad day for these guys. So you're just too bad to throw down on the board. I know what's gonna happen. You're just gonna get Hate Spiked here in the near future. You're our 0 mana Hate Spike target. All right, there's Nora. I'll add in our Bandle City Mayor. We don't have any elusives at the moment. I think I'm leaning towards the Loping Telescope for just more value here. I feel like we're going to be in this game for a while, but I mean, Shark Trainer coming down next turn's not that bad. If he gets stunned, it feels kind of bad, but he's a pretty high value unit when we have a pretty low cost hand here. See if this works. This is tough to pull off against the opponent, right? They're going to have Mystic shots, group shots, and the like, and so I don't expect this to be successful too often, but I'm also not willing to throw away a Bandle City Mayor in this space, so I think it's okay to have the unit get popped by Mystic Shot. It's just his first portal into the deck. It's not like he's really doing anything here. Now we say, what up? It's Shark Trainer.
All right, line up, you little chompers.
Ready to fight, ready to battle. Get a little baby shark out here.
This all we got?
Good stuff. You all remember that Super Bowl? The Katy Perry Super Bowl? It's fantastic. Left shark coming out, doing the good work, doing the good dancing. Baby Shark's something else. I'm not familiar with Baby Shark. That's some kind of kids television show, but if you want to go and watch the best halftime show of all time at the Super Bowl, you can go and watch that Katy Perry Shark one. So what's going on here? We're losing our sharks. That's okay. Opponent has spent a ton of resources into this board, and they still just haven't really done anything. So he's got this 7-2 fearsome. I guess we're about to get blasted by this thing, but opponent's only got one card in hand. It's only got one portal in deck. This isn't particularly scary what they're doing. Now, I think we want to lead with the Wandering Shepherd. This is going to give us a bit of opportunity to block this dum-dum, and so just pick up whatever equipment will give it +1 attack. These are all fine. I don't think I'm excited about Upcycled Rake at the moment, but if we do pick up a Tristana, we're going to be very excited that we found it. It's just the downside to the Rake is if he has a 1 damage burn spell, he can kill off our Grumble Slug. But doesn't have it. Good stuff. Bring in the aloof.
That's not ours.
assisting the opponent with the portals, and then he discards Banana Blaster. So this has to be a timeline stack, right? And they just haven't drawn timelines.
Anything helps.
Good. I think we're pretty spot on with that. Alright. As we load up the Aloof Travelers with Scout, I assure you we'll draw we'll draw Tristana next turn. But I think this is still pretty okay. Get that fresh attack in. Thinking on it real hard. Do I want to play this last card? It's tough. Big decision. It's probably a... I guess it's not going to be an Aloof of his own. He doesn't have the mana to play that, but... Says no thanks.
Fine. Excuse us.
Alright, Aloof. And I'm just going to go ahead and Pokey Stick in the middle of combat. I don't want to have to take the time after the fact to Pokey Stick again. So if we want to play the Tenor of Terror and then immediately attack, I don't want to have to Pokey Stick before we do that just to get the unit on board. How do we feel about this? I still don't think we really care about the cards in his hand. Let's just go with the Tenor of Terror to get the most units on the board. And then I'm going to play the Bandle Commando to have a blocker for Nora next turn. And I think we can stop. We're not doing a ton when we don't have access to Tristana. We just need one of our big units or something here. There she is. The opponent says, I finally have my timelines. It's finally hit. Alright, we'll go ahead and drop the Tristana. I want all of my units to start getting these bonuses. Opponent shouldn't be able to throw too much at us here, and then we can just refill the board. Spraying and praying. Look at all these fearsomes out here, though. I mean, I think we can take 8. Opponent's only got 1 card at this point. It's a lot of burn to take us down from 6. And then if we put, we could say like Tristana block the 2/4, but then if opponent has Mystic Shot to kill Tristana, we're gonna feel pretty bad about that. So let's just not give him the option. What you got? Discarded a Risu. Put the Rake onto Tristana. Give her a little more impact. Why not? Onto the next turn. Where's that Atrocity at? Just send that 16 right to the dome. Alright, 3 impact. Not terrible. Do we want to play a Vengeance in the middle of this combat? Probably not. Losing it now.
Look, a thing. Elf, that's not ours.
Alright, so we can move the Scout equipment somewhere else. And so if we want to, say, play the Wandering Shepherd to pop the Scout off of Tristana, then we could put the Scout on Teemo or something. I think I'm okay with this. If we hit Overwhelm, we just win the game. Didn't turn up. Gonna be stuck with the Pot of Pain, but makes her a little bit healthier, gives us a lot more impact on the board as well. So I think we want to attack with everything that has impact, and then at the end of combat, I'm going to put the upcycled Rake onto Bandle City Mayor.
Really?
I mean, all of his units have 4 health, though. It's such a bummer for such a small amount of damage coming in. Alright, we'll stop here. Such a bummer. Rip Teemo. Okay.
Push on without me. Mama's home.
I hope we don't regret putting down this upcycled Rake. My idea with this is that we can still just block, right? The way that we're going to struggle here is if he comes at us with fearsomes, and so if we're able to just trade the Bandle City Mayor in the middle of combat here. We'll get to pick up the scout equipment before the next turn happens, but I kind of wanted to have like maximum fearsome blocking capability for the turn.
Aw, shuffle buttons. We made it. Yay. But our stuff
Alright, Bandle
didn't.
Gunners turns up. hit opponent for that puff get damage. So I think we're in good shape now. Again, we're at 5. That's a pretty tough range to get burned out from. And then this Tristana's doing massive damage at this point, impacting for 7 or 6.
Let's get him, squad!
6 shots his own dude. I like what you're about. I think we're still okay here. We've got every unit we have on the board has impact, and so even if he has another removal spell, we're in pretty good shape. Even losing Tristana here, we should be fine. You didn't banana blaster quite strong enough, my friend. All right, GG. On to the next one.
Hooray for the Bandle Gunners!
Hooray for the Bandle Gunners. Tearing through Diamond. Doing the stuff with old Teemo Tristana today. We'll be up in Masters before you know it. So what do we got? A reasonable enough start up against Seraphine. Dumb stuff. I think we can get rid of the Pokey Stick and the Tenor of Terror and just look for some more high quality early game stuff. But I'm reasonably happy enough with playing Bandle Commando on 2 and then equipping it on turn 3 and then trying to pop off with some of the that elusive action. We'll have to see what turns up. We can pivot and say play Grumble Slug on turn 2 if we want to hate spike something, but I think we'd prefer to save these hate spikes for the likes of a like an Aphelios style unit. Youngling comes in. You got anything exciting in here? It's like, every time I get in this spot, I always want to just go for the Shepherd's Authority because you're getting in that extra point of damage. But I mean, we should probably realistically just take the Panapane here. Every time I try to go for the Shepherd's Authority, I just immediately regret it. So we'll take that a little slower today. But it was a nice draw with the Grandfather Fae as we're in this spot to start picking up the additional Owlcats. We should be able to get them up to 4 power now that we picked up the second Grandfather. So I'm on board with that.
Cooking with lead.
Alright, let's send in this hate spike. I'm not quite ready to throw away our Bandle Commando. It's still pretty strong here. I was kind of okay with it if we were going to play the Bandle Commando and then opponent was going to have a they were going to have like a burn spell, so they're investing a lot more cards, but it doesn't feel very good with that board. Let's see where this starts to get us. If he tries to bring in a Aphelios, we can get up to 4 units and then have both Hate Spike and Group Shot if we need to. Moondreamer is a little bit more awkward. You do something else now, right? Reduce that card's cost by 1. Definitely stronger than it used to be.
It has no reprieve, finding planets to retrieve.
Alright, I like this. Let's drop the Group Shot. I feel pretty good about attacking with our Grandfather Phase now as well. Opponent's just going to get smoked for a ton of damage. If they try and take the value blocks here, I really suspect he's going to be mainly blocking birds. That's what we see here. Good deal. Still kept both of our grandfather Fays for the fresh, hungry Owlcat, and then we can try and hate spike away this this cosmic youngling if we want. I don't feel like I'm excited about that. I want to play like 8 mana of cards, but we can't quite do it. We can only get up to 7 with the Grumble Slug paying the price back on mana. Well, I think the Owlcat's definitely coming in, especially before things potentially get weird. And now, do we really feel the need to spike off this youngling or attempt to spike it off? It's like, I just don't think there's a ton of cards that we care about in terms of this aloof Travelers. Well, I'm going to send it off of the Grumble Slug. If he's got a Mystic Shot or a High Note or just any of the 2 damage burn spells, I don't want to lose the Grandfather Fey and have the Hate Spike fail. So that one had a little bit more of a guarantee to work attached to it. What can he even play here? If he plays like one big card, I just don't think we even care. Let's boost the Owlcat. If we hit something like, I'm gonna take Fish Whack out of this, but I was gonna say if we hit like Quick Attack, then we're able to hit with a 6-attack Quick Attack and then throw it with Atrocity. That's a pretty big deal. Now we're gonna end up losing it here, but we should still be able to develop a good Atrocity next turn. With how he's blocked, we should be picking up an additional Owlcat that we can throw down for the spell shield. He's got something, but what is it? High Note to prevent 3? Okay, so yeah, we still get our owl. So this is one of these spots I like to talk about in the sense that this might go wrong. This might go poorly if we try to just Atrocity the Owlcat. It's not that hard for the opponent to have 2 burn spells at this point, but if they have to invest all that mana and just having the Owlcat not kill them, then we still get to flood the board and they should just die to our other stuff. So I think we're still in pretty good shape here, even if he has the chain of spells to try and stop this. Time Trick just free? That cost 1. I didn't see any mana go down. He's got a bunch of stuff. He's certainly lining it up out here. Celestial Wonder, created by Back Alley Bar, and then Fan Club President generating Grasp the Undying. Okay. I guess that's something we should have known to have played around. We should have known better. So we might not be in as good of a spot as I was hoping for now. It is nice having these elusives, but we can definitely be short this turn. Are we okay with giving them a chance to play a slow card? I mean, there's just not a ton of slow stuff that can get in front of these elusives. You have to be playing something kind of weird to really make that happen.
Yay, but our stuff didn't.
So he loses a bar. Tenor of Terror was a fantastic pick. See how much we regret this now. The Winter's Breath. Okay, another one we should have known to play around.
Darkness in your heart.
Should have known. Say, I suspect this Targon PNZ deck is playing Grasp of the Undying and Winter's Breath. Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay. We're coming in.
Look at my squirrel pin.
Get that 1 point. Oh, this deck is so dumb. This is the downfall to coming in and playing Eternal. You got to deal with more of this bullshit.
The world's a big place.
I don't know.
Let's
Somebody
see all of it.
somebody thought they were doing a very good job at work when they when they designed all these cards. I don't know if you're familiar with Battlegrounds, but I was playing Battlegrounds the other day with my brother, and there's just a completely ridiculous champion in the game in Shutterwalk right now. And you're like, yeah, it was somebody's job. Somebody came forth and designed this card and said, oh yes, this is a good idea. I feel like this is a very fun and fair card to have unleashed upon the game, and it's completely ridiculous, completely. So. All right, I messed this up a little bit. I was thinking of like it felt like opponent was wanting to play another card on the previous turn, and so I thought we were going to get to respond and still play Teemo. He's not making his way onto board just yet, so we're gonna have to take this a little bit more awkwardly here. There's probably another spot to where, you know, we're really wanting to make an open attack, but not certain if we'd be able to do it. It's not as crushing. Like 2 turns ago, it would have been pretty crushing if we open attacked and then opponent stopped us in the middle of combat. But I think it was pretty reasonable in this space. The retreats into Seraphine, probably dead at this point, but
Let's jam.
we'll see what we can do.
The crowd writes the songs. I just sing them.
The hate spike isn't quite as strong now. Like, see, this is the kind of downside to not getting Teemo down last turn, so we miss out on this husk, even assuming that this works. And just missed it a little bit.
Firing.
And I'm out.
All right, well, he noted early. I'm gonna make him finish the game, so you can feel free to skip forward another 3 to 5 minutes. But if we're gonna emote early, we're gonna take the time to finish this. I was trying to think if we had anything good to talk about. So if you're not in America, this is Memorial Day weekend out here. This is where we celebrate the military and stuff. But what it basically amounts to now is you just eat hot dogs and watch fireworks. And I've gotten to do quite a bit of that over the course of the past few days. I'm trying to think of my like hot dog count that I've eaten over the past few days, and I feel like I know I'm most certainly in the double digits. It's a question as to whether or not we're closer to 20 or we're closer to 10. And I certainly hope for my health and my bowels that we're closer to 10 than we are to 20. But that's what happens, man. You get out here and you go to all these cookouts and stuff, and you gotta sit around and eat all the food and everything. And whenever you go to a cookout, everybody just has hot dogs, and so it's just it's the way life works. All right, well, that was a fun game. I'm glad those cards exist. Let's move on to the next one. Whew, that's tough. Should have known Winter's Breath was coming. That's the one that makes a lot of sense. I should have known I was supposed to play around the big AoE board clear. All right, next battle though, up against Fizz Samira. This is one I've played against this guy like 4 or 5 times over the course of the past few days. He plays Fizz Samira all the time, and so I'm sure he's a wonderful pilot of the deck up to this point. Let's see if we can't take him down. Maybe he won't emote too early and we'll get to talk more about hot dogs, side dishes, and stuff, you know? This is an important thing to talk about. And so you can tell me if I'm wrong on this. I know I'm not wrong on this, but so there's the choice of two dessert options called ice cream cake. Okay, if you go to Baskin Robbins, get your 31 flavors. They have the loaf of ice cream on top of cake, which would be a legitimate ice cream cake, right? It's ice cream and cake all in the same thing. But if you go to Dairy Queen, they have what I would call like an ice cream loaf. It's just a big, like chunk, a big block of ice cream, and then they put little like crumblies on it and letters and shit and call it a day. And it's foul. It's just trash. It's garbage. But some people like it, and it's okay to like it. You know, like what you want, do what makes you happy. Just call it by the right name, though. It's certainly not ice cream cake. To me, it's ice cream loaf. I have a family member that wants one for their birthday, and I'm gonna have to come out and purchase some ice cream loaf for this upcoming weekend. And it just hurts to call it that, man. It hurts to call it a cake when you know it's not. And this is what my life amounts to these days. All right, back to the action here. I was wondering if we were going to be able to take down the Fizz. I wouldn't have felt too bad if that failed, if that group shot just didn't work, because I was really just mainly interested in spending the mana for the turn. But it did work. That's absolutely fantastic. It should push us very far ahead in this game. The Tenor of Terror looks quite good here. All of these attacks were fantastic. Cleared out a unit, dealt some damage, weakened the Jagged Butcher, and as this kind of pushes on, we should be getting in better and better shape here. See what happens. Opponent has a literal million cards in hand. We don't have a ton of stuff to do this turn. Drawing Hate Spike was actually kind of nice. Give us an option to take down a Samira or something if she comes down to the board. Biz number 2.
We made
All
it.
right.
Yay. But our stuff did it.
Loses out his Powder Pandemonium. Not the strongest card against us since we have so many potential blocks, but taking away a lot of their late game feels kind of good. Have to see if we can't get another Hate Spike onto old Fizz here. Says, I got the spell this time. I did the work. Oh, is he gonna pick up our Hate Spike out of this? He's very likely to do it, but he doesn't have any mana at this point, so I suspect he's gonna have a removal spell after this, right? He's seen Hate Spike, Atrocity, Vengeance. You know, he only gets to see 3 of the 4, but he's most certainly picking a removal out of those. I would assume that he wants the Hate Spike, as it's just the most efficient mana-wise out of all of those cards. But not bad. And then this gives us a chance to talk about a thing that's, you know, certainly relevant in this format, in the Bandle Gunners losing their Spell Shield. If we got to play with the Atrocities and the Bandle Gunners and then having Spell Shield, it's very similar to what was happening in the previous game against the Back Alley Bar deck, in the sense that, you know, it's a very tough unit to take down as it is, but if you also have to break a Spell Shield and chain off like 3 and 4 spells to try and take it down to stop an Atrocity, gives you a lot of opportunity to get that damage in, and then even if you don't, they have to spend like 500,000 cards trying to stop you. What do we got here? Father Fury comes in. Let's lead with the Bandle Commando. I don't suspect he's going to have a trick or something here, but if he managed to hit an all-out or something, right? And we play the Pokey Stick, he gets to all out the Father Fury and then attack and deal a ton of damage. It doesn't feel very good. So I like the idea of being able to block with the Bandle Commando if things go wrong.
Bandle Gunner Tristana going in. I got your signature.
Bandle Gunner Tristana's ready.
Big Mama. Let's bring this home. Let's make cookies.
Okay.
Shuffle buttons.
Still looking in pretty tip-top shape here. Group shot. I don't think we want to open attack. Like, I think there's a very real chance that we get to hit with all of our units in combat this turn. So we hit the group shot to kill the small unit. Now say he plays Samira. Then we're going to be able to just vengeance Samira. The Guile, you know, is what it is. It shut down our plan, but again, I think that was like a very real shot that Tristana got to deal damage. Like if he has a combat trick and a unit, and then we get to vengeance the unit, like the game's just done at that point. Game's pretty much done at this point, but
I excel at making heads turn and roll.
let's take her down.
Style never fades.
All right, I suspect that'll be enough to garner a concession. We're gonna play this like true gentlemen, though. We aren't gonna drop that emote too early. Mark it a W and move on.
That's the way the Bandle Gunners do.
All right, next battle. Up against the old pirates. We're gonna have to feature the pirates here in a video before long. I can't wait to put pirouette into this deck. it's gonna be pretty exciting to do so, but it's not quite time for that. I'm gonna go ahead and shuffle away the Tristana. I feel like we're gonna have to flood the board early and try and just get down as many blockers as we can. Having the Tristana, she's more of a turn 6 or turn 7 play in terms of being ready to block. All right, Teemo was a good addition. We were going to have to decide if we want to, say, like, play Grandfather Fae, then play Bandle City Mayor, and then have the free play in the thing. What do you call it? The free play in the Alcat. But since we drew Teemo, we can still play the Mayor and Teemo this turn while having our reasonable blockers on board. Misfortune's a real pain in the dick here, though. We had good blocks until she turned up. All right, we'll clear that nonsense out. Too slow. Like if we're gonna say, oh boy, this Misfortune is the bane of our existence, we need to remove her from the board and deal 2 damage with the group shots, that just takes way too long to do. So try and take down these low health units here. If opponent just conceded when when the group shots came down. Nope, just thinking on it.
Love ya. Another day in the field.
All right, Teemo in. And now what do we want to do on this next turn? Do we want to try and just throw down a bunch of units with the Owls? Or do we want to get this big boy going in the Arena Kingpin? And I think we want to go Owls. And so I'm going to bring in Grandfather Fae. Well, after that, we'll bring in the second Grandfather Fae. We'll play the Hungry Owlcat and try to use that as
Quit smoking.
a way to just get a bunch of board here.
Says I don't share.
Lose that on Teemo. That's not the biggest problem of the day. Now that he only has these 2 units on board, though, would we rather play the Kingpin? Like, he can't add any more units to this board. I think this is safe. And then if he wants to attack with Misfortune, we have a good block in the Kingpin as well. Can't puzzling signpost the Misfortune Blast, though, right? You can deny a skill, you can Rite of Negation a skill, you can't puzzling signpost a skill. This only hits fast and slows and does the equipment thing.
Looks like trouble.
All right, well, we lead with the Owlcat. This can potentially eat a spell shield and then come in for a block. Not great blocks on the round, unfortunately, but we'll still try and prevent a good load of the damage. Not going to get in front of Twisted Fate this turn. I don't think this is a game we're going to have to worry about him flipping in. I'm going to Nox and Fervor here. You're going to Nox and Fervor into the Bandle City Mayor or something? I think I'm pretty okay with that. we're getting to the point to where the reduced cost thing is still relevant, but it's not a necessity for success. Right? Getting that point of free mana on turn 1 is way different than getting it on turn 6 or turn 7. It just when it's a third of your mana for the turn as opposed to 10% of your mana for the turn. It's not nearly as important.
2, 3, 4.
All right, I think we're ready to just attack with everybody. Gosh, Zap comes in.
I told you, I can't actually fly.
It's like, what are the chances that he ever blocks with Misfortune here? I kind of want to attack with all of our 2 attack units, so the Grandfather Fae stays home, but everybody else gets to come in. Well, Teemo doesn't get to come in. He's had a bit of an unfortunate day today. It sucks. Like the typical kind of game plan with pirates is they just get to flood the board with a bunch of crap, and then they refill, and so they don't have to worry nearly as much about making trades, right? Because you'll just play a bunch of like Eye of Nagakoboros kind of cards, and then just get to refill everything. But we're not in a spot to where we can just throw cards away. Yeah, he fell to 6. This Atrocity is so close. I gotta keep eyeballing this Misfortune. It's like I just keep suspecting she's about to flip at any time.
Fresh out of mercy.
Boy, she's coming in. Says scratch that. Not coming in. This will drop us to 7. I mean, if we're not going to be attacking with this Grandfather Fae, I think we might as well just go ahead and drop the block in. But, I mean, at 7, that's the point to where you die to a Decimate plus a Nox and Fervor, but we need to deal 2 damage. Like, we really need to get this 2 damage out on this next turn. And I don't think we're going to be able to fill out the board otherwise. But he's only got 3 blockers at the moment. That's tough. We know he has the Sigil of Malice for combat next turn as well. Oh, this Twisted Fate's really funny. He's effing close to flipping. I didn't realize it was so bad. I think this is still okay.
Love ya.
See if the Aloof gets a Decimate out of hand. Ooh, Tristana turned up.
Smells like mushrooms.
Okay. She just lethal? If we get to pop that off next turn, if he spends a bunch of mana on stuff that doesn't matter, the Tristana coming in for the big nugget can do it. Especially in the sense that she'll have 4 health, right? She's going to flip, and so she'll have the 4 health, be able to soak up
I'm Tristana, and I take point.
both the, just a single Nox and Fervor isn't enough. I know he has the Sigil of Malice in hand, but it's like depending on how opponent angles their spells, if we go into the next turn and get into combat, and then he Sigil of Malice and Nox and Fervors onto Tristana, then we just get to send the Atrocity then. It's pretty sweet. Pretty sweet, I tell you. But we're most certainly open attacking here. This is just too easy for opponent to win if they get a chance to play their spells.
Hey, hurry up so I can shoot you again.
Uh-oh. That's not what you want to see. We beat the burn plan, though, right? If he's going to try and send a bunch of burn to face, we'll get to the left of it with Atrocity. So what I suspect will happen here is they're going to put a blocker in front of Tristana, then Nox and Fervor, so she doesn't get to deal the impact, and then with his spells on the stack, we should be able to do Atrocity for the win. Even picking up Hate Spike was a pretty big deal. If one of those Nox and Fervors is important, we can look to counterspell it with the Hate Spike.
We live here.
You're bluffing.
Don't get ahead of yourself.
What's that you got there? Say your farewells.
All right,
Charmed, I'm sure.
here come the spells. Look at that. Not even anywhere near lethal. That's wild, having this attack be so short. Alright, here comes the spells we don't care about. And the finale. Boom. $13 to the Nugget. It's only got 2 mana left. There's no 2 mana thing that's going to kill our Tristana. That should be enough to call it a day. Alright, we did it. GG. Well played. Nice Atrocity. And so, that's where we're going to call it for the day. We're at the 55-minute mark. If you say, bust, I'm upset we didn't get the full 8 games in today, well, blame it on the Seraphine player that was emoting too early. That's where that's where a lot of your time went. If you don't want to blame the players, if you want to blame it on the developers, you're welcome to blame them for the monstrosities that are stupid back alley bar decks. And so just a mountain of no fun to play against. I guess somebody enjoys playing with that stuff, but it just feels like horrible design to me. But nonetheless, back to the Tristana deck. You got to see a lot of the angles that this deck gets to take, the power of things like Hate Spike and Atrocity, while still being in this nice kind of classic, you call it a classic, but it's just something that's on mind for the past 2 months, shell of these really high impact multi-faction kind of cards. And so it's a lot of power here. I'm not certain to which of these Tristana decks would most likely be the best in terms of best of 3. It is nice that you have a lot of flexibility in terms of what lineups you kind of want to pick on, right? If you're looking to like play Tristana somewhere across the board and you're wanting to be good against a bunch of just like non-interactive unit heavy decks, then you can look towards Atrocity or you can look towards Champion Strength. If you're looking to just go with the like highest raw power level, you could probably look towards a Noxen version with the Mites, or if you're looking to be able to kind of pick on single target units, the prize fight does quite a bit of work there, so you might want to be in Bandle City. But I think at the end of the day, assuming one of these decks is still playable in the Lands of Eternal, the hit to Bandle Gunners was a bit of a strike, and this deck does really fall if a bunch of AoE is running around. And so if the things like Concurrent Timelines Freylord, or if the things like Trundlemere really kind of pick up in strategy as to where they have a lot of avalanches and blighted ravines and buried in ices, and this deck really kind of struggles. But if you find yourselves in a more like Seraphine Mystic Shoddy heavy kind of format instead of a big AoE heavy one, then this one can come in and really shine. And so it's something to really kind of keep in mind in terms of best of 3. Having these little spell shieldy kind of units can be quite annoying for a lot of decks. And this one is something as to where if you didn't really want to take the time to learn Eternal and you played a lot of Teemo Tristana in the previous standard season, then you should be able to pick this up and be pretty proficient with it kind of right out of the gates. And so, good stuff though. We got 2 Atrocity kills, very close to a 3rd one today, and so there's no denying that big 14 blast from Tristana or a smaller 5 or 6 blast from a spell shielded unit can be a fantastic way to end these games when the combats just aren't doing it for you anymore. And so, good stuff. That is going to do it for us today. Hope everyone enjoyed the video. Hope maybe learned a thing or two along the way, and you had a good time watching. This is Busted. We thank you for being here.